Hi everyone, it's Orkan. Today we have a problem when we are given a nums row, an integer, and we need to generate that many rows of the Pascal's triangle. So for example, in this case, our input value is 5, so we need to generate the 5 rows of the Pascal's triangle. So what's the Pascal's triangle? Pascal's triangle is where each number is the sum of the two numbers directly above as it's shown here in this picture. So for example, in this case, the 2 is the sum of the 1 and the 1. So for 3 is the sum of 1 and the 2 and so on. So how are we going to solve this problem? So we have in this case, let's say 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So for each row, what we are going to do, we are going to add first and the last number, we are going to add as 1. So as you can see here, so for first number of each row is 1. How about the number that are in between? So let's say that number 2, right? So in this case, what we are going to do, our algorithm is that we are going to take the previous row I minus 1, right, plus previous row I. So for example, let's put that into practice. Let's say that for 2, right, the index of it is 1. So 1 minus 1 is 0. So whatever in the 0 index in the previous row, which is 0, right, plus previous row I, which is the same index. So we are adding 1. So we are adding the values for the 0 index and the 1 index, which is 1 and 1, right? 1 and 1, so which gives us 2 that we are adding here. So the next one, let's say that the row number 4. In the row number 4, so again the same way, right? So previous row I minus 1, which means that whatever at the 0 index, it's 1 plus whatever is in the first index, because the index of 3 is 1. So plus 2 gives us 3, right? The same way here, the value of the index value of 3 is 2, right? Because it's a 0 index, first index, and the second index. It's in the second index. So we are taking previous I minus 1, which is 2 plus whatever at the index 2, which is 1. So 2 plus 1 gives us 3, right? And the last one is that, again, the 1 plus 3 gives us 4. We are adding here. So here the index of it is 2, right? 2 minus 1 is whatever at the index 1 and whatever at the index 2, which is 3 plus 3 gives us 6. And the last one is that index 3. So index 3 minus 2, previous I minus 1, right, gives us 3. 3 plus 1, whatever is at the same index, is 3 plus 1 gives us 4. Okay, first thing that we do here, we are creating a triangle list. And then the next step, we are checking if our num rows is equals to 0, which means that there is no rows to generate. We are returning our empty list triangle. And then the next step, we are creating our first row. In our first row, we have only one element, right? Only one element, 1. So we are adding to our first row, and we are adding that to our final result, to triangle. In the next step, we are going over our rows. So we are starting from the second row, because first row we have already added, and we are taking a previous row, and also we are creating a row which is our current row. So we are adding first and last element is always 1 in the row, right? So we are adding the first element, and then we are adding the mid elements. So for the mid elements, we are adding in the same way that we have seen in the explanation part. So we are taking the previous row I minus 1, whatever the value is for the I minus 1, and we are taking the previous row at the I index, whatever is at the I index value. And once we exit this for loop, so we have all mid elements, and we are adding our last element 1 also, and we are adding our final result to our triangle. to our final result triangle that we are going to return. So what's the time and space complexity of this solution? So we have two for loops, right? So our time complexity is n square. For our space complexity is we have a triangle list which has the list of the list, right? So for each list we may have at most n elements. That's why our space complexity in this case is also n square. In Java, implementation is identical. So what we do here is we are creating list of the list integers triangle that we are going to return. And the first one is we are checking if our number rows equals to 0, we are returning an empty result. If it's not, then which means that we have at least one row. So we are creating first row because first row will have always one element, right? So we are adding the first element and we are adding that to our triangle. And the next step, we are generating other rows. So we are starting from the second row because first row we have already added here. We are taking the previous row at each step and we are creating a list of the integers row, which is our current row. So for the current row, we are adding our first element. For each row, first and last elements are one. So we are adding our first element and the last element here. And here we are adding our mid elements. For the mid elements, we are using the same logic that we have seen in the in explanation part. So we are for each index, right? We are taking whatever I minus 1, whatever the previous index was, and whatever the current index is. So we are adding these two values to our row, and once we exit this for loop, we are adding our last element and we are adding that row to our triangle, and at the end we are returning the result. Okay, that's it for today. Hope you like my content. If you like it, please hit the like button and subscribe my channel. See you next time. Bye.